Mingdao,
Hi, how are you doing? It's great to be here.
thank you so much. Many thanks for being here today to answer the five good or God questions.
Yes?
I'm very honored that you finally accepted because I have to say that you refused at first, not because you didn't want to participate, but because I'm quoting you. I don't believe in an Abrahamic God or a literal
Mhm.
afterlife. I suspect people who come to your channel hoping for some illumination that fits their worldview won't be happy with my answers. So, as I told
Yes.
you, I love to have people not coming from Abrahamic religions. And
Okay.
here you are today, and thank you for
Okay.
trying this
Well,
exercise.
well, the honor is mine, and when you ask the questions, I'll clarify what I mean by my terms.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Mingdao. Before diving into the question, I will try to present you briefly. Don't hesitate to correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So you are many things, many people in one person. You are an author, an artist, philosopher, Taoist teacher, and martial artist. Deng is your family name and
That's
not your
correct.
first name.
That's
Your
correct.
first name is Ming Dao.
That's right.
You started studying Taoism, Chinese martial arts, and Qigong around nearly 50 years ago now,
Yeah.
because you
Almost
started in
50.
1975, if I'm not
Yeah.
wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
You studied the longest with your Taoist teacher, Master Quan Sai Hong.
That's right.
You have also written, so as I told before, you are also a big author. So you have written around 10 books now, if I'm not
Well, it's
wrong.
been 12, yeah.
12,
And
okay.
and and I've been translated into about 18 languages, and I think
Oh
you
my
read
God.
one of my books in French. So, yes, I've been
Exactly.
busy.
I have two of your books in French. The first one is Le Guerrier Érudit in
Yes,
French. In English, it's a Scholar Warrior, an introduction
that's
to the
correct.
Tao in in everyday life. And the second one I have also is Chronique du Tao.
Right.
In English, it's Chronicles of Tao, the secret life of a Taoist master.
Right. And that's the
Uh,
biography of my teacher.
that's the biography of your teacher, right? And the other one is like a story. Uh,
Yeah, and of course, an instructional book, like what would it be like to practice a system? And so
yeah,
that book is all about his system and how one
yeah,
might
yeah,
practice.
yeah. The story is this one, yeah, the biography
That's his
of your
biography.
teacher. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Perfect. And for those who want to know more about you, I encourage them to just to click in the on the link just below in the description. You are a very informed website with many things about you, your art. So it's very interesting to go deeper on your website. Mingdao, do you want to add anything before
No,
starting
no,
the
it's just
questions?
I'm happy to be here. I have been teaching a long time, so a lot of people have asked similar questions. So I do have experience answering those questions.
Mm,
It might not be what people expect because it's informed by my studies.
mm.
And I don't feel that many of the books out there are completely accurate. So I've come to a different point of view. But we can talk about that.
Great. I love to hear things that I have never heard before. And I think people that are on my channel also. Um, First question, Mingdao. Does life have a meaning or a purpose?
So my question is, are we talking about life itself, or are we talking about a person's experience in life? So if
Um,
we're talking about life in the abstract, that's one thing. If someone's saying, what's the meaning to my life? That's another thing. So do you have a,
yeah, actually, my question, well, people that I interview more often answer the second question, like about my life. But my question actually was aimed to talk about a general meaning for all, something that is common for every people in life. So the life of every people in Earth. Is there any common thing, any common purpose for everybody and for
Okay.
life in a general meaning?
Okay, so let's separate those two topics. Let's, what you're asking is there a purpose or meaning that is common to everybody's life?
Yeah,
All right. And
you're
then the
right.
second question is going to be, what about life itself as an abstract force or a
Exactly.
biological force? So I do feel that there are important things that everybody in every culture wants to do in life. And the first point I would make is life itself. Everybody in every culture agrees that life itself is a value. They all want to live, right?
Mhm,
We all say that killing is bad. We
mhm,
understand that.
mhm,
Even the serial murderer who's caught doesn't want to die, wants to live. So the first thing is life itself is our meaning and our purpose. We want to continue to live. We need to moderate that at some point because then if we don't, we're not going to be able to cope with death, but that's a separate topic, right? So everybody agrees that life is good. Well, if you agree that life is good, why do you make life miserable for other people?
mhm, mhm,
It doesn't follow that if we agree life is good, that I get to go to another country and kill somebody, right?
mhm,
So it's not that we fail to understand the universality of life. It's that we are bad at applying that. We think
mhm,
that it should not be universal, not really. When push comes to shove, we'll kill somebody or abuse somebody or exploit somebody. I'm not just talking about killing then. Is it okay to be unfair or unjust to another person because you are circumscribing their life by doing so?
mhm,
So, yes, everyone agrees that life is good and important, but we're really bad at being consistent about that. The next thing I would point out is that everyone has to fulfill something in life. If you get to the end of your life and you say, I didn't do this, it's too late.
mhm,
And then don't you have regrets? So, how can we go through life without having regrets? The first thing is you do things in a sparing way. You don't mess things up. You don't leave a big trail of waste behind you. You don't be immoral to other people because that's going to come back at you. You have to identify what's important to you, and then you have to try to do it. This personal meaning, so first, it's a universal need to find a personal meaning, but each person's meaning is individual, right? So I want to be
mhm.
very
Yeah.
careful
Mhm,
about that.
mhm,
And it's never going to be something simple like, I want to be Miss America, right? It's going to be something complicated and difficult to achieve. So you have to do that. The next thing is life proceeds in stages. So we can use seasons as a metaphor.
mhm,
Spring, summer, autumn, winter.
mhm,
It happens to everyone, 100%. You read the biographies going back to ancient times, everyone got old, didn't they?
mhm,
And they all faced problems and so on. So you're going to have stages in life, and what makes sense is that you tailor your activities to those stages. When you're a teenager, you don't try to be like a 60-year-old and vice versa, right?
mhm,
There's an appropriate time to do everything. And if you fail to invest in those stages, you're not going to have a very happy life at the end. So you have to find your own meaning and you have to tailor the pursuit of that meaning to the stages of your life. And for God's sake, enjoy life, right? I'm when I had a child, it was like I was insane and tired and so on. And now when I see other people have children, I keep saying, can you just enjoy it and don't rush? Because all of a sudden it's over. And the kid go,
Yeah.
I don't have time to talk to you. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You
I I
want to
I
enjoy everything.
I
Go
I
on.
take I take this message for me especially
Okay.
because I have two daughters of 4 and 10 years old. And
Oh,
so
just soak it
I
up.
perfectly know that life is just running so fast that
Right.
every time I'm telling my daughter, not now, I'm sorry, I'm working, uh I regret just a few minutes later because
Yes. On the other
it's
hand,
yeah,
they'll learn something by watching you work,
yeah.
right? And
Mm,
and your dedication and so on. But for someone 4 and 10, I don't rush.
mm,
You're not a teenager, you're not 20, you're not 30. Enjoy being 4 and 10. Enjoy being a child. Save your innocence, right?
mm,
The last thing I'll say is that I believe everyone has to find this um, point of balance. They have to reconcile the personal with the collective. That's true of everyone also. Every person is a social person.
mhm,
So you have to pursue your individual priorities and you have to make a contribution to a group and join a group. It might be a marriage, it might be a family, might be your community, might be your country, might be the world. But we have to come to terms with the two, personal and collective, and discover that they're not in conflict. Because
mhm.
you can emphasize what's personally important to you and be unselfish. And this is the task that has been given to us by the sages. How can you be unselfish? In every religion,
Mhm.
they speak of being unselfish. So it's a very odd trick, right? You have to pursue and fulfill what's important to yourself, and you have to learn to be unselfish and give. And you're a father, you're a husband, at a certain point, you get more pleasure out of seeing your family happy than you being happy. Are you going to have
Mhm.
another steak, another glass of wine, take another night off and sleep some more? After a while, it's like, oh, well, they're happy, then I'm happy.
Mhm.
And so that's a pleasure and a fulfillment that not everyone gets to see because they don't understand this idea. We have to do both. We have to fulfill ourselves and learn to be unselfish.
This is the main difficulty to find this balance in
It
life.
is, but again, it's not a set point that we achieve and then oh, we're done.
Mhm.
It's always going to be like this.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's going to change because when we're, say, in our teens and 20s, oh, I want to win the awards. I want to win the race. I want to go to college and so on. And then when we're older, it's like, oh, fine, go out to dinner. I'll stay
Yeah,
home and watch TV. Here's some money. I'd rather you go and have fun. But it changes, and that's okay.
yeah. Thank you so much, Mingda, for your great answer. Many things to think about. Um, Second one,
Okay.
big one.
Yes.
God for you is.
Okay, so I don't believe in the description of a single God, certainly as an old man sitting somebody somewhere who decides things and so on. So the first question is life fair?
Mhm,
And some people think life isn't fair because they suffer. Suffering is not a sign that life is unfair. It is a sign that life is fair because you have to take a chance on both good and bad, yes?
mhm,
And so sometimes it's going to be bad, sometimes it's going to be good. But does anybody decide, oh, you? And how outrageous it would be if there was some person saying, oh, those are my chosen people, everyone else no good. I can't see how that's a just or good God.
mhm.
And I can't see any evidence for that. All right. So the idea that anybody, any divine being, is going to put his thumb on the scale for your sake doesn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
So I don't believe in a God that is going to intercede in my life, who's going to hear my prayers or anything like that. None of that makes sense to me,
Okay.
and I don't see any evidence for that.
Mhm.
However, is the world beyond human conception? Yes, right? Is the world far greater than any person could ever engineer or design? Yes, right? Is the world magical in the sense that we have life? Because no technology can create life.
Mhm.
We can delay death. We can't, quote, fix death. So, for those reasons, we are really quite pathetic and tiny in this world. So, if you want to say, is the world on a scale that is far more magnificent than any human being could ever conceive or create, the answer is yes. Is the world, in that sense, divine and transcendent? Certainly, of human definitions, which are pathetically inadequate. Well, that's not even a contest, right? Because but you take all of human knowledge, which admittedly no single person can possibly know all of what's been done in all the libraries, all the labs, and it amounts to nothing compared to the universe.
Mhm.
So, but I object to this idea that, oh, um, if it's beyond me, then I will posit that there has to be somebody who can do it. That makes no sense to me, right? And that kind of viewpoint that where we project our human ideas, I think is a fallacy, right? We shouldn't do that. Now, we're going back in a sense to the first question. This world gives us life. We cannot explain it. We can only participate in it. And there's something happening. Yes, you and I will get old and die, but our children will go on. We are meant to contribute to that stream. That life will go on eternally. And unless human beings do something stupid, the world will go on thousands, hundreds of thousands of years more. Yes. So we are participating in that process. And if you want to call that divine, you want to call that miraculous, because we can only participate in life. We can't make life.
Mhm.
The fact that we are given life then is reason for reverence. So now the question is this world sacred? And I believe this world is sacred, and here's the reason. Because the Taoists don't necessarily see a division between the mundane and sacred. If we define if we define the world as being sometimes sacred and sometimes not, then we are in a philosophical conundrum we'll never escape.
Mhm.
Notice the only evil in the world is people. If somebody dies in an earthquake, we don't call that evil. We don't say, oh, that rock was meant to hit them. We don't say that. So only people are evil: murder, rape, theft, genocide, deceit, hatred. Aren't those all human qualities? So the world is not evil. Some people are evil. So let's not put that on the world.
Mhm.
The world gives us life. And because the world gives us life, and because everyone agrees that life is good, therefore the world is sacred. And human beings do nothing to make this world work. In fact, we mess it up left and right. If human beings vanish from this planet, what would happen? Would the animals be okay? Would the ocean still have waves? Would the rivers still run? What do we do? Nothing. In
Mhm.
fact, we make the world worse. So, yes, the world is sacred because it gives us life. And because the world is sacred and gives us life, we should be reverent and devoted to it.
So you, in your practice, you never use any sort of prayer or something like that.
I don't use prayer because
Mhm.
that's asking somebody to do me a favor,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Now, if let's reason that out for a minute. If somebody is going to give me an extra $100,000 this year, won't it have to come from somewhere else?
Mhm.
So am I not asking to get something for myself that I didn't earn? Why? Because I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm feeling old. My last chance to be a success. You see, if I'm going to pray, I need to pray to myself, not because I'm a god, but because I need to focus myself and earn it. It seems hard because we have to earn things in life. And we see, oh, let's say a rock star who's making millions of dollars, on tour and so on, and everyone's coming to adore them. And then we say, well, what happens? I go home and my wife says, take out the garbage, and that's it, right? But that I have to be mature enough to accept my life and not project onto a God my fantasies and wishful thinking. Likewise, if I'm being having a hard time in life, I need to find the message in that. I need to learn from that.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, some of the hardest times I've gone through in life, which I will never, ever volunteer for again, but they
Mhm.
made me who I am.
Mhm.
Because if I didn't go through grief and sorrow and rejection, I wouldn't develop the resilience that I have. So, no, I don't pray to a God. And the odd thing you'll find is that every Taoist has an altar with gods on it. And yet my master told me the gods aren't real. They are cultural means of focusing our attention, and ways of exercising our need to be devout. We actually have a need to be reverent and devout. And it's an odd thing that we say, oh, well, I'm praying to something that's fake, but we do it as a kind of technique or exercise.
Yeah. All right. Don't know how to ask it, but I will try because um, I was wondering because you know that in life, love is essential. Okay, love and life are two things that are very linked together, maybe. And to have love means that there is a relationship, this between two people, two different people. And how would you explain that love exists without maybe having a primordial relationships anywhere, I don't know if I'm clear, but um, to make, sorry, love exist in life, so a relationship between two people
Hmm.
who love each other, how would you explain this creation in life, the creation of love in life, without having a primordial, an original love somewhere or relationship somewhere? Because without like without having any relationship, transcendental relationship, how can this like this love exists in life. I don't know if I am clear
I
with
know what you
that.
mean, but can
Yeah.
I ask you to look at it from a different point of view?
All right.
So the first act of love is not between two entities, but the first act of love is what gave us life.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you rightly observe that love and life are linked,
Yeah.
life came to us, and that's an act of love.
Mm.
It's not necessarily yet a matter of two people,
Okay.
but it puts it on um, a metaphysical level.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
love, life itself is love.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then life itself goes on.
Mm-hmm.
It's perpetual. And how does that go on? If we look at it from every level, whether we're talking about, two people falling in love,
Mm-hmm.
or you go down to the very cellular level, everything is exchange, right? There is
Mm-hmm.
nothing that we do in this lifetime that is not a matter of exchange. You eat, right? You breathe the air, you move, you do
Mm-hmm.
work, get things from the store, whatever. Everything is exchange. So love is that act of exchange, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so let's take in the case of a couple, you feel that very intensely because that's part of the arrangement, right? You don't feel it intensely with everyone. You feel intensely with hopefully a special person, right? That's part of it as well. And what does that do? It emphasizes value and meaning, to go back to the beginning of your interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that love becomes meaningful to you. So, for example, if I go to a drawer and I pull out my parents' marriage certificate, it's historical, but I feel none of those emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's meant to be exclusive, but in that exclusivity comes the universality, right?
Yeah.
Because life is not just one way. It works through each of us in order to have the whole and have it
Mm-hmm.
move. And this goes back again to what I was saying about the meaning for each person, because in love, you develop unselfishness.
Mm-hmm.
The other person is more important to you sometimes than you yourself. Why will parents or a spouse sacrifice themselves for another person? You'll throw yourself in front of a gunman if it means, if you, in
Mm-hmm.
your last breath, you think, I saved my daughters.
Sure.
But there's no good reason for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not if we say, oh, life is all about being selfish. Why do you want to do that? Because inside you, you need to have life go on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think you have to have like a, primordial two Adam and Eve in order to have a
Yeah. Yeah.
pattern of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The pattern of love is the fact that we're given life.
Okay.
And so we contribute to it by giving back to life, by participating in exchange, even to the point of sacrificing ourselves as individuals so that the collective life will go on.
Great answer. Thank you, Mingdao. Um, let's talk about the afterlife.
Oh, okay.
Third question.
I don't believe that there is an afterlife where I go on vacation somewhere. Like, you know, Paris is the one city I've been to where I would just move there in a second, right? If I could have gotten off the plane and someone says, "Well, you'll be fine here," I would have just moved there. But I don't think there's a place like that after I die. Now, let's look at it practically.
Mhm.
When I die, not a single particle that makes me is going to vanish from this planet. We know every particle will be recycled and go back. So all the parts of my body are conserved, yes? They were only borrowed in a way, and now they go back. So my body doesn't disappear. Now, do I some spiritually get to go somewhere on vacation or fulfill all my fantasies? Oh, I've had such a frustrating and awful life. Finally, for eternity, I will finally have everything that I wanted. That makes no sense whatsoever. It also doesn't make sense that, oh, someone is chosen and the rest of you are condemned. Well, that makes no sense. These are bourgeois ideas made by small-minded priests who just are trying to control people. Oh, you're a miserable seamstress. You're in debt. Oh, it's okay. When you die, God will take you and everything will be fine. Right? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Um, yes, but I heard sometimes, I think you also heard that some people, even Taoist people, maybe could communicate with ancient masters to to have something from them or to and even people like that are not Taoist or from other religions that can communicate with some dead people from their family or so on. So how would you explain that?
So I haven't experienced that myself. So
Okay.
I can't explain it or vouch for it. I do think it's possible for some people the energy of their spirits is so powerful that they can linger. They're not going to
Okay.
linger bodily,
Okay.
right? And,
Yeah.
like sitting somewhere and just
Yeah.
waiting for the phone
Yeah.
call, right? But I think they can linger as a presence in this world and
Okay.
have an influence. But I
Mm,
don't think that's given to every, person's soul, you know.
mm,
Um, and there's a possibility that some of that might exist only in the minds of some people, right? Like,
mm,
you've heard people saying they still talk to their mother and so on and so forth. We perpetuate the life of a person when we remember them,
mm.
and you will live on in your daughters, right? And so to that degree, your personality is already being apportioned and will survive in other people. But will you get to say, I still feel this way I feel, except I'm somewhere else? I don't think that makes any sense, right?
Right. Mhm.
But I think some entities can still linger and be of influence. That's what you might say the Taoist
Yeah.
gods.
Mm,
They're just these very powerful beings that still linger and still have some influence. But
right.
you know what? Again, they're not somebody who's going to put their thumb on the scale.
Mm,
They're going to encourage us to achieve the kinds of meanings that we've been discussing, and that's what they're there for.
mhm. All right. Thank you, Mingdao.
Sure.
Um, the two last questions are quite lighter, you can say.
Okay, well, I don't know,
Uh,
but okay.
Fourth question, a spiritual character who inspired you.
Well, at the moment, I'm very much inspired by Lao Tzu, who,
Okay.
the writer
What a
of the Tao.
surprise.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have to pick something that makes sense, right? Um, and but here's what I find important about his life story. And yes, I know some scholars are questioning whether he was a real person or not.
Mm,
So let's put that aside for now, because
yeah.
you're asking me what character,
Mm,
attracted
sure.
me. And so, do you notice, number one, he's old. His name means the old master or the old one. And so that's hope for all of us who are getting older, right? That you're supposed to keep being vital.
Mhm,
He decided to leave the world because he was disappointed, and the world at that time was very violent. There was a lot of wars going on. They always leave this out, but it was just it was 275 years of constant warfare and killing. So why wouldn't you leave? I mean, I would too. But that's the idea, that he left. Notice he didn't proselytize. He didn't set up a temple.
Mhm.
He didn't, try to start a cult. He just left. And he was asked to leave his writings, which he reluctantly did, and then he went on. That's an example.
Mhm.
Can we communicate our ideas and our understanding for the benefit of other people without trying to build a following for ourselves, right? And also, he was an archivist, so that means that he was a person of great learning.
Mhm.
So I think those are templates that we can all follow and
Sure.
is worthy of emulating.
Thank you. Last question. Um, don't tell me Tao Te King, please. A book and or a movie to recommend to your best friend who may be quite lost in these questions.
Well, I mean, one would think that, you should have some fun books or something like that. But so can I first say the poetry of John Donne and Shakespeare would be like you just need to read something and reassure yourself that other people have struggled with these questions and so on, and you don't want to like big headache, those would be great places to start. There's a book called Zen Flesh and Zen Bones, which is one of the first books that I read, and it certainly sparked my
Mhm.
imagination, sparked my search for this. So if you want something a little more challenging, that would be good. And then if you want something really challenging, then you should read the Book of Changes or the I Ching,
Yeah.
because again, it says these are all the possibilities of life. And you know what? If you ever read the I Ching, it always talks about continuing and the cycles and persevering. And that was the message that I most needed, that you have to hold on and you have to keep going. You can't give up. You can't be depressed. You can't curse the world. You have to keep going. And this fits in what we were saying before. When I was studying or translated the I Ching, I wanted to know what was the worst scenario. Like there has to be like the worst thing possible, right?
Sure.
And when you go to movies, what's the worst thing possible? It's Armageddon, the end of the world, right? So what
Yeah.
does the I Ching say? What's the and I came to this conclusion. The worst thing is alienation. The worst thing to do is isolate yourself and be cut off from other people. So that's what it doesn't say, oh, the worst thing is to die,
Yeah.
It's like or get hacked to pieces or anything like that. That's the worst thing. So I think that's a message that's important to remember.
Great. Any movie?
Oh, no, there wasn't. I mean, it would be completely, what shall I say, eccentric. So for for me, the movies that really helped me were Chinese martial arts movies.
Yeah.
And but there's a message there.
Yeah.
In almost every movie, the hero is the worst one on screen. I mean, in the story, right? Everyone else is more powerful, richer, more handsome, and the hero is always pathetic and weak. And then in the course of the movie, has to change him or herself in order to meet the times. And then sometimes in some of the movies, they die at the end. But the point is that they have to remake themselves in order to find their own meaning and purpose in life. So I know that that's a very eccentric, you know, reply, but like I I go to those Chinese martial arts movies or the Japanese samurai movies, and it's always about that. Will you
Mhm.
stand up for yourself even when you are the one with the greatest odds against you? And that's what inspires me.
And if you have to say one, the best movie you would recommend in martial arts, Chinese martial
Oh,
arts, to finish.
uh, I mean, nowadays, modern times, right? If
Yeah.
you should probably see Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or go to Kurosawa's Seven Samurai.
Okay.
I think those kinds of movies are both elevated, right? And still have those elements of the story.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mingdao, for
Very
your all
welcome.
your answers and your kindness, your humility. I can see that through the interview also. So it's really pleasant to do this interview with you. Thank you for all the to all the viewers of this interview also. I again encourage them to read your books
Yes.
because it's also your books can also give some meaning to some people, and the two books that I quoted before are about that, also about meaning. So it could be also a good help for them. Thank you again, and
Very welcome.
happy to talk to you
Yes.
another day,
Okay.
maybe. Thank you, Mingdao. Thank you to all
You're welcome.
people.